to help them.
Yeah,
So
most
that's
of our
so
patients
sad.
right now who are very sick are from nursing homes because we can't send them back until they're negative 2 times. So
Oh,
so it's a pretty heavy load in the hospital right now. So thank you everybody for coming to my video stream. I appreciate it very much. Again, it's an open forum. Please feel free to ask any questions, okay? So 7:01. So I'm going to do COVID-19, how to wear a mask properly. And some of you might be wearing a mask already. I'm going to go over the surgical mask, which is like this, and a homemade mask, which my aunt made me, which is like this. Okay, but first, prior to going over how to wear a mask, I just wanted to discuss just a broad overview of what COVID-19 is. It's speculated that COVID-19 originated its reservoir to bats because bats carry many, many different strands of coronavirus. And they have an adaptation that they don't have the severe disease in bats. So somehow that passed from bats, and they're speculating it went to a pangolin, and some of those pangolins are on, for sale in the open market in China. So these pangolins are used, number one, for their meat, and they have these thick scales that are said to be like medicinal. So they're used for that. So that's where we're speculating it originated and how it crossed over. So the pangolin is actually the intermediate host. So the original came from a bat, they're suspecting pangolin, and somehow when it was inside the pangolin, the virus evolved. And when consumed by humans, it became a human invaded virus. So again, it's similar to like the SARS outbreak, where SARS actually, they believe it originated from horseshoe bats and then went to like cat-like cuvets and then to humans. So where it evolved in the pangolin, it allowed the virus, how it evolved and mutated, to be able to latch on to the human cell. So why it's considered like a respiratory illness, sorry, I forgot to put on my timer here. It's considered a respiratory illness because some of the receptors in the lungs, called ACE2 receptors, are mostly in our lungs. We have a little bit in our stomach and our GI system. So the transmission of COVID-19 is what they call droplets. So when we talk, a little spit comes out. When we sing, same thing, cough, sneeze. And it can land on our skin without an issue, but the problem is when it goes into our mucous membranes. So those mucous membranes are the openings in your eyes, your nose, your mouth, which is why they say, please don't touch your face, because that's the entry point. And again, the virus attaches to those receptors called ACE2 receptors in our lungs. I want to show you a picture. I know it's a little bit, maybe a little bit too descriptive. Hold on one second. I'm going to share my screen for a sec. Okay, so this is actually the cell that's in our lung. So we're the host. So this is the cell. We have ACE2 receptors out of every cell in our lungs. And the virus here that has spikes, which is called, it is a coronavirus because of the spikes, it looks like a crown. So that group of viruses are called coronavirus. This specific virus is called COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. So this virus, when it enters through the mouth, through the nose, it latches on when we swallow, or it proliferates. It goes into our lungs here, and it grabs right on to these receptors in our lungs, these ACE2 receptors. And from there, it proliferates. It goes wild. It enjoys. It harbors. It multiplies quite fast. And why this is so dangerous, because when it does attach, our response system in our body is to fight it, to fight the cells, to fight the virus. So it causes a lot of inflammation, and fluid gets inside the cells in the lungs, and it fills our lungs. And right now, we don't know the long-term damage that this causes. And when it fills the lungs, it turns into something where I don't want to get too medical, but a lot of people require like a ventilator because their lungs cannot breathe for them anymore. It's all filled with fluid. And it happens because of this virus attaching and invading the cell. So hopefully I was a little helpful to understand. With that said, I'm going to go into the mask. Who wears a surgical mask here? Does anybody? You do? You do too? Okay. And then what about a cloth or a bandana? Does anybody wear that?
No, I haven't made a homemade one yet. I just kind of like reuse the sort of surgical dust mask thing that I have. I have a couple of them, and I just kind of, you know,
Use and
rotate every other to a different one.
okay, so make sure to wash it after every use though.
Oh, okay.
I'm so lucky my aunt was so worried about me that she made me a couple of these. And they're pretty useful. I don't wear them in the hospital, but I do wear it on outside bases. So the surgical mask here, some people get confused on which side to use. There's a darker side and there's a lighter side. Most masks have two sides, a darker side and a lighter side. Those are like the most common. And these are what they call surgical masks. So the surgical mask, on the top, there's a little bit like a bendable portion. It can be like a little wire. It could be, some people use like paper clips when they make homemade ones, but it's supposed to conform to your face. So the outside part is the dark side. The inside part is usually the light side. And I'll explain why. The dark side here, it has somewhat of a water repellent. So if someone talks to you, sings, and spits, it catches here and it doesn't go inside. It just kind of stays on the surface. But if you apply it incorrectly and you put the absorption side outside, if they talk to you, it absorbs right here and it can go through the mask. Okay, so the proper way to wear it is usually, again, they're mostly a dark side and light side. It's going to be the dark side out. Another way to be aware of which side is what, again, the metal, the conform portion is always on top. This goes where your nose bridge is. And the pleats in the front are always down. If you see here, the pleats are down. So keep that in mind. Oh, wow, it's already 5 minutes? Okay, and then the inside, the pleats are up. So keep that in mind, because even some of the doctors approach me, they ask me, oh, which side do I put? So outside, pleats down. So the proper way to use this mask is to loop it through your ears. Well, first wash your hands. Loop it through your ears here on both sides, or you could tie it. Make sure it conforms to your nose, and then pull it down to cover your mouth area. So that's why there's pleats, so it can form and cover your face. Okay, and our purpose here is to cover all the areas from that spit, saliva droplets from getting inside and touching our mucous membranes. You see some people wearing goggles because, again, it could enter here too. So some people take the extra precaution to use the goggles also. When you remove the mask, remove it from the ear sides, not touching the front. If you accidentally touch the front, sometimes you talk and it slips, and you touch it throughout the day, make sure to wash your hands. Okay, again, it should be flush against your face like this and conform to your nose. The inside, I'm just going to remove this. Again, remove it from the sides, not the front, which is considered contaminated. The inside is an absorption portion because when we talk, moisture builds up. So this absorbs, but it absorbs there and it doesn't go out. So again, water repellent side always in the front. I just wanted to go over hand washing. That's actually the best preventive measure because the outside of the virus has an envelope that's a little bit of a greasy layer. So when you wash your hands with soap, it breaks that envelope of the virus and it falls off. The virus cannot survive anymore. It's broken. So hand washing, again, is of main importance. My aunt made me this cloth one. And if I use this throughout the day, this is supposed to be washed. So it cannot be reused. So whenever you use it, you go into the grocery market, Don't save it for the next day. Just throw it in the wash, hand wash it, do what you like. These surgical masks are supposed to be one-time use, but sometimes it's not very practical. We don't have access to it. So just remember the outside is the dirty side. You don't want it to touch anything. So you might want to get a paper towel. What I do, because we have to save it in the hospital, you get a paper towel and put clean side up. So the dirty side is actually on the bottom where the paper towel is and kind of confined to that area. Because unfortunately in the hospital right now, we do have to reuse these. Does anybody have any questions on those two?
Oh, well, I have a question, Desiree. When we clean off, like if we're gonna reuse like a medical grade mask,
Yes.
um, what's the best way to kind of like clean it off? Like a little alcohol swab wipe or
I'm glad you
what?
asked that question because these masks are disposable and one-time use. If you
Right.
clean it off, like with soap and water with alcohol, it'll degrade the quality of the.
Oh,
So we can't spray it with Lysol. We can't wipe it down with alcohol. It degrades the quality. But
oh,
if it gets too moist and yucky and really gross, then you really have to throw it out and just kind of use a cloth one or another source. But again, these are not to be cleaned, wiped with anything wet. It will break down the mask.
got it. Okay.
What?
Question.
Oh, sure.
Are we supposed to wear? I read it in the group chat. Are we supposed to wear a mask when we go out for a walk? Like if I'm walking my dog, should I be wearing a mask or can I not wear a mask?
It's recommended in all public areas right now to wear masks to prevent.
Even if you're walking through your neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
And so
recommended.
I have another question regarding that because I hate wearing a mask because the heat from my breath. Is there a good mask that allows that breath ventilation so that you're not getting overly warm because your breath is right in your face?
There are, the homemade masks are cloth, so it absorbs pretty well. But right now, if you see like on the internet, there's a little mask with little vents on. Those are the best one because the heat escapes. But right now, the waiting period to get them shipped is so long. It's so hard to
Oh,
get. So those are the best vented ones. Let me just go to chat and see who else has questions. Oh, okay. If the pendolin is cooked, how does the virus pass? We're not exactly sure how it passes because it evolved inside the pendolin. Um, so whether the scales were used because they're used for medicinal purposes, or whether it stayed alive in the meat, somehow the virus stayed alive when we're speculating when humans consumed it. Alive or dead, yes, the cloth, it's really good. You could even make your own mask through bandanas, I even saw a lady online make it through tissues. But the best way to make a cloth mask is make sure the weave is good. You can't see through it because then the droplets can come through. So I'm sure you've heard people say, oh, I have 1,000 thread count sheets, 600 thread count sheets. Those are the thick weaved cloth. So it's preferable a thick weave to cover. And remember the cloth mask, if we can, wash it after every use. I see that, Kelly, you get really warm when you wear one. Me too. I literally sweat. It is so hot with all of that gear on. So when it gets wet, especially the surgical one, unfortunately, we have no choice sometimes to reuse them, but they should be thrown away. Some of you might have heard N95 mask. So this is an example of an N95. And these are kind of reserved right now for healthcare because we're constantly exposed to the virus. We have like continuous exposure. They're recommended just for healthcare right now because there is a shortage. These are also, even though they're kind of expensive, these are also one-time use. But right now we're using it. I literally have only 4 that I have to use for a month and a half. And that's pretty hard when you sweat in them and you breathe in them and they're contaminated. But right now we have no choice. There is no source to purchase these right now. So it's unfortunate. So I just wanted to summarize some of the quick points. Remember, pleats down, dark side outside, light side inside. Wash your cloth mask every day. The top should be the bendable area that conforms to your nose. Make sure it's flush against your skin, so no openings. Okay, completely flush against your skin. The most important thing is hand washing. Remember that soap breaks the virus envelope and it'll fall off and it'll wash off. But if you don't have access to that, at least use a rubbing alcohol or an alcohol gel that's at least 60% isopropyl. Also to make sure, again, there's no gaps, because sometimes these wear out and you have no choice, you only have one, and the sides break. That means it could go inside and land on your face. You can eat lunch and it's on your lip and it gets pushed inside, and there you go, the virus is swallowed and inside your system. Again, avoid touching the front of the mask, because sometimes we don't even realize how many times we touch our face or like even adjust the mask. So we're actually touching the contaminated portion. And again, these are technically supposed to be single use, but unfortunately they do have to be reused. So just keep in mind how you're storing it, with the dirty side kind of down and the clean side up. You don't want to spread all the dirty side up. Okay, does anybody have any questions for me? Or can somebody state, Jennifer, what kind of mask are you using right now?
I have a few cloths. I have a couple of friends that both were making, and so we have just enough that we basically have them going in and out of the laundry on a regular basis. So we're wearing a clean cloth mask each time we go out.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Cecilia?
A surgical mask, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
She gets them before they ran out.
Okay, that's actually a really, I'm very glad you were able to get access at least some masks. And Eduardo, what do you use? Awesome. I see a lot of guys wear that black one. I think it's a masculine thing. Like so many guys wear that. And Kelly, you said a cloth one you wear, right?
I actually don't have one. I just ordered some. I've been using like a bandana over my mouth when I go out. So
yeah, bandana is just fine. And what about you, Julie?
Well, I have a couple of these like kind of like surgical type masks, like a dust mask. Like I had bought a really long time ago at the Japanese supermarket. So they came like already pre-wrapped. Like even each mask was like individually wrapped.
Wow.
So I still have a couple of those left. And because like I don't want to go on a long tangent, but like when you go to a lot of Asian supermarkets, a lot of people wear masks on like a regular basis, not just because of right now. So I would go to Mitsuwa and I would put on my mask. It's like, oh, it's normal. But I remember before the mandate about wearing a mask, like people be like, why are you wearing a mask? But I mean, I was like, well, I go to the Japanese supermarket a lot. It's like totally normal there, But,
the reason why they're reacting this way to COVID-19, because I do see some people posting, oh, more people die from the flu, more people die from TB. It's because those carriers, you can be a carrier and not show any symptoms. Those that are positive, 80% of them show mild or no symptoms. But if you go around your elderly mother, you go around a baby or a child who's immunocompromised, they're the ones who get sick and show the symptoms. That's why they're taking such extreme precautions, because it's so highly contagious. And many of us, 80% who are positive, don't show anything. So that's why the extreme cases, I know, online people are saying, oh, they're taking it to extreme, all of these closures. It's because of that. It's so contagious and it's so easily passed. Unlike the original SARS in 2002, when people got the virus, they showed symptoms right away. We were able to confine them, keep them, treat them without spreading it to the public. And in this case, we can't, because not everybody shows symptoms. We don't know who's positive. It could be the person standing next to you. So again, thank you everybody for coming to my video stream. I appreciate it very much. I hope you guys learned something. Does anybody else have any more questions?
Great job. Just great job.
Thank you. I hope everybody took some tips with them.
Yes, thank you. Stay safe.
Everybody stay safe.
Yeah, you too.
Stay safe, okay?
Stay safe, you guys. Have a good night.
Thank
Bye.
you.